Hello, welcome to Tennessee Informer. Thank you for being with us. Happy birthday to the great state of Tennessee. 230 years ago today, our state was founded. I wish we had as many of the good men that we had at that time in this time. I can't, it seems to me like we don't have any men of that caliber, or very few. I would say one of the few in government that we have that are made of that same caliber might be Monty Fritz. There's not too many others I can think of. But anyway, 230 years ago today, our great state was founded. Tonight, we intended to have Jeff Cobble on to talk to us about jury nullification. Unfortunately, Jeff had something come up. He's not going to be able to make it. We did try to switch around a few things with another guest, and that didn't work out. So we still got plenty of things to talk about. We will get Jeff rescheduled as soon as possible and get him back on here. Like I say, there's a lot going on. We're going to talk about several different things tonight, cover some topics, and we'll also, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'll try to get all your questions. If I can't answer them, maybe I can get an answer back to you. I don't know everything. I know some things about certain things, but I don't know everything. So anyway, type, get in the chat and ask some questions. We're going to talk about several different things that have been in the news yesterday and today. And of course, some of those things just seem to change by the minute. At least by the hour. But first, we're going to get a word from our sponsor, LifeWave, a unique product that uses light reflection to activate the body's own natural energy, supporting healing, improving performance, and combating aging without drugs or stimulants. Check it out, and we'll be right back.
Light, the energy of life itself. Since the beginning of time, light has sustained us, fueled our growth, and shaped the world. Even Einstein recognized that everything we are is made of light. But what if we could harness the light within us, not just to live, but to renew, restore, and rejuvenate? Introducing LifeWave X39, the first product in the world that activates stem cells using our body's own light. Backed by clinical research, multiple patents, and over 10 years of stem cell research, a revolutionary wearable light technology that unlocks the power of activating our own stem cells with a single, safe, affordable, non-transdermal patch that puts you back in control of how you look, feel, and perform. Unlike drugs or chemicals, X39 works naturally, awakening your body's ability to heal and thrive. It's time to unlock your full potential, restore your vitality, and embrace a healthier, more vibrant you.
Welcome back. Last night when I was getting my notes together for the show, the latest thing from the Trump administration was that, he's not in a hurry in terms of negotiations with Iran. He says, you got to be patient to get the best deal. And of course, he insists that he's not going to sign a bad deal, that, we basically are going to have to get what we want out of it. I don't really see there being a deal. I don't see the Iranians giving in to our demands, and I sure hope we don't give in to their demands. Something has been floated that I saw somewhere about us paying them some astronomical amount of money, and I'm like, I don't know why we would do that. This would be like an after the fact. But that was one of the things that was in the deal that Trump said, hey, we're not going to do that. So earlier today, the word was they were still in negotiations, still talking. And then the Iranians said, no, we're not talking because of some of the things that happened in the last couple of days with the Israel going into, hitting Hezbollah again in Lebanon. And of course, we keep hearing that the ceasefire is still in effect, but, this weekend we shot at Iranian targets and they shot at ours. So I don't know exactly what kind of ceasefire we got going there, but I don't think it's a ceasefire for some of the people involved. So, but today they said that, hey, we're not talking. We're not going to send any more messages to the Trump administration. And Trump, it was a little bit contradictory. Oh yeah, we're going to have a deal soon. And then he said something along the lines of, well, maybe I'll just not send them any more messages. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. He says that, Iran is in a very bad position. I don't know if we have any audio or any video with this or not. Okay, I guess not. Anyway, Yeah, okay, they're in a bad position. A lot of damage has been done. We've destroyed a lot of their military, but actually, he said this morning, I heard in an interview, he said, we destroyed most of their navy. We hit their Iranian Revolutionary Guard pretty hard, and of course, we took out some of the regime leaders, but said that we hadn't really hit their military, their actual military, because remember, there's two different categories over there. You got the army for the country, and then you have the IRCG, which reports to the mullahs and protects the mullahs, and that is the ideological cadre for Iran. And not all of them are Iranian. Some of them are from other places. But anyway, like I say, I don't think we're going to have any success on this in the long term in terms of the talks. I don't see how we can come to an agreement. I think that, they keep saying that we've been at war with Iran for 47 years. Well, 47 years is a long time for them to prepare and to harden targets. 47 years is a long time for them to watch how we operate. That they watched us when we were in Iraq. And matter of fact, one of the reasons we took out, I think it was Solomon, few years ago, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name. If I had it right in front of me, I'd probably still mispronounce it, but all the same, their head terrorist guy that we took out several years ago. And a lot of that was in retaliation for when we were over in Iraq, some of the more deadly IEDs were provided by Iran. And we think there was, Iranian operators actually hitting our guys. So I think they've had a lot of time to watch us. I think they've had a lot of time, decades to prepare. And of course, they're getting help from China, they're getting help from Russia. I do think that when we hit them in February, I think we underestimated, or at least the president underestimated, their resiliency and the fact that they would still be able to reach out. They would be able to respond, and they'd be able to reach out and hit the Gulf countries around there. Another interesting thing we heard, supposedly we hear about our Gulf allies. I don't know that we really have any allies in that part of the world. We have paid partners. They're paid in some way, shape, or form. And it was, I think I heard it was Secretary Treasurer Bessent talking, and found out that some of those Gulf nations have recently admitted that they have Iranian funds in their bank. Basically, bottom line is they've been dealing with Iran. They've been violating the sanctions. Some of the Gulf so-called partners. And I guess they did give the money up now, to keep the Iranians from using it. But I wonder how long that's been going on. How long have our so-called Gulf allies been undermining our efforts as far as sanctions and boycotts on Iran? But I don't really trust anybody in that region. I don't trust any of the Gulf. I don't trust any of the Muslim countries. Bottom line, and I don't think we should. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. A lot of the things that we say that are our goals that we want, okay, a regime change, them to give up their nukes. We cannot make that happen with just air power alone. Just can't do it. Those kind of things take troops on the ground, whether it's us, and which would be the worst case scenario, or people from inside Iran. I don't know if that's going to happen, because it seems to me that we killed off quite a few of the leaders early on. I mean, they got 90 million people in that country, and I don't know how many of them are diehard Islamists. I know not all of them are Islamists. I know there's a growing Christian population. I know there's something of a Jewish population over there, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are just that are nothing and just want to be left alone, and they do want rid of the regime, but you can't talk them out. You gotta be able to get rid of them. You have to use. It's going to take physical force from within the country to get rid of these guys, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, I don't see us nuking them. I hope we don't do a troops on the ground. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, one of the things when Trump said that he was in no hurry, one of the things that I'm hoping, and I don't really know. I did hear that UAE was working on, and UAE is United Arab Immigrants, that are Emirates, United Arab Emirates, that we're working on an alternative port. I think it's in the same area as the Strait of Hormuz. And I know that we're selling a lot more of our oil since this has gone on. And granted, we don't get that much of our oil over there, although our prices have gone up, our prices. But a lot of that has to do with we don't have the refinery capacity. You can have oil all day, but if you don't have refinery, you can't just put it straight into your tank. Okay, you got to have a refinery. We haven't built any refineries in 30 years. That's a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem. It's going to take a while. You just can't build them overnight. But we are selling more oil, and I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, when he says he's in no hurry, who knows? I mean, wait a little while, he might say something different. Maybe there's something that's being worked out, to bypass the strait and to make it less important. Find other ways for friendly countries to get their oil out to market. Maybe that's in the works, and maybe we're going to pick up more of that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Once again, not optimistic. I also hope that we don't go in there on the ground. I think we jumped the gun on this. I'm not saying that we didn't need to deal with Iran. I agree they're a threat. I agree they can't have nuclear weapons. But when you go to make that move, you got to have a good idea of what you're facing. I think we way overestimated it. I don't know if I say we. My theory is that Trump listened to the Israelis more than he listened to his own. From things I've heard, his staff, his advisors, they were against this. So I'm assuming he listened to the Israelis, and maybe they painted him a rosy scenario and stroked his ego. And I think maybe that's why we went in when we went in. Either way, I don't see a happy ending on this. I don't see an easy ending unless he's able to completely bypass him. And then you still got to deal with the fact, okay, now they know how to, they do have this uranium, and they still have the ability, and they're never going to agree. They are never going to say, okay, we will never have nuclear weapons. And we can't believe anything they say anyway. And they don't trust us either. I mean, I understand that. They don't trust us. We don't trust them. I just don't see a quick or happy ending on this. And of course, the problems that's going to cause here at home is, even though we don't get most of our oil from there, our gas prices are still up. Everything is still up. Now, they come down some, but not enough yet. And it's going to affect our economy. Also, let's not forget that part of the world, we get a lot of our fertilizer from there. And from what I'm understanding, we're hurting, and the farmers are going to be hurting if they don't get the fertilizer they need or find alternatives. One of the questions is, should America push for a quick deal? I don't think we should push for a quick deal. If it's not something that can be enforced, if it's not something done in good faith, I don't think we should do it. Not at this point. But I don't think we hold all these cards. I really don't think we hold all the cards that we would like to think we hold. Like I said, they've had 47 years, and they've got the help of the Russians. They got the help of the Chinese, and they know us. They know how we operate pretty well. And it's no secret now, we used up so many munitions. Munitions were an issue before this started. We've spent so much over in Ukraine, and we had certain things that were getting low a couple of years ago. And so now it's even worse. And I mean, of course, I don't know what the level is, but those things just can't be rebuilt overnight. All the different munitions, you can't just pump them out. So I don't know. It's all kinds of ugly, and we'll just have to see how that turns out. And we might come back to that a little bit later. But we know we have carried the weight as far as NATO goes. NATO's been a joke for years. There was something in a meeting that Secretary Hegseth was in the other day, and I guess he inadvertently made the comment or said something to the effect of, that countries like New Zealand kind of freeload off of us militarily, defense-wise. And it's been true. I mean, it's been true for a long time, not just them. I mean, it's not about New Zealand. It's just in general. A lot of countries, especially all the NATO countries, we've been carrying the weight for all these years. Now, maybe we didn't need to carry some of that weight. Maybe we should have a long time ago said, hey, look, guys, especially after the Soviet Union fell, there was always a fear of Russia after that. But maybe, just maybe, we should have started pushing them then to do something about that. And we actually have a clip of that, the video for New Zealand. So we'll go ahead and play that real quick.
2% is freeloading, but I don't have anything against New Zealand. The era of the United States subsidizing the defense of wealthy nations is over. We need partners, not protectorates. We seek alliances built on shared responsibility, not dependency. This is the maturation of our alliances in a new era. Alliances only work when they are true partnerships. It is a two-way street. You don't have a strong alliance unless everyone has skin in the game. No freeloading. History is not over. Australia is stepping up. Together, we are expanding the rotational presence of U.S. forces and collaborating to ensure our defense industrial base build and sustain weapons required for a high-end fight. We appreciate Australia's investment in real combat power and the commitment to integrate more deeply with the U.S. joint force. Listen, I mean, if I'm being honest, 2% is not enough, and so 2% is freeloading, but I don't have anything against New Zealand. I want partners to step up. I didn't intentionally leave it off my list. I look forward to working with the new defense minister there and enhancing those capabilities. I think that relationship has been a very fruitful one for a very long time. But I think as my friends Richard Morals and John Healy know, I'm probably the most blunt with our closest friends about what our capabilities are and where they need to be to ensure that we're locking arms and shields considering the threats of the world. And we can't just say, oh, we've been friends for a long time, so let's work together. We've been friends for a long time, so you better have the same capabilities we do, because if we don't, our alliance is meaningless. And that's the kind of realism President Trump has asked me to inject into all relationships. 2% is freeloading, but I don't have anything against.
Yeah, I agree that, if you're going to have alliances, you can't have freeloaders. We can't be carrying the weight for the other countries, and they have to step up and do their part. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need to look at some of the alliances. It doesn't mean that we necessarily need to be in all the places that we are across the world. I think we really need to pull back and really think about it. I'm not talking about everything, and obviously you couldn't do it overnight, but to me, America first doesn't mean that we're in all these countries across the world. Having partnerships, being able to work together if the need arises against a common enemy or threat like China, it's good, but I'm still not sure we need to be everywhere that we're at. But if we are going to call anything an alliance, as he said, they have to pull their weight. It can no longer continue to be, we're going to provide the bulk of everything. They have to step up. So I'm glad, and I'm glad that Trump is doing that. He was blunt with NATO in his first term, and they didn't seem to take it serious. We see what's happening. I mean, now they are concerned about Russia. That may have been part of why Russia felt like they could invade Ukraine. Whether that's the case or not, if Europe is concerned about Russia, then they need to build up their own military. Now, they're going to have a problem because they've let all these Muslims in over the decades. NATO at this rate will be the North Atlantic Terrorist Organization not too long from now. They got all this. They have let their countries go. So I don't even know if NATO is salvageable unless they do something internally, unless they get rid of a lot of these immigrants that they've allowed to come over. And I don't know if they're willing. I don't know if they're willing to do that or if they're able to do that. And that includes England. I mean, Britain, they're in a mess. They are in a mess. And it's something that they have done to themselves. And, we've allowed a lot of that here as well. We're not as far down the road to hell as they are, but we've started down that path for sure. And hopefully we'll pull out of it and get serious about getting rid of the internal threats that we have in this country. So anyway, I think that, like I say, if you have alliances, they have to be real alliances. We don't need to be carrying dead weight, but we need, I think, reevaluate all of what we're doing. I think they should be doing more, and we need to. Let me see if I can get to I think there's a question here on the line. Let me see if I can get to that. I can't see it just yet. I think a lot of and this is a comment at Bryant Report Official. I think a lot of our allies should be doing more. It seems like everyone likes to criticize us, but are very quick to ask for our help when in trouble. Absolutely. And here's the deal. It's kind of like if there's somebody willing to do it, that they know is willing to do it, then they'll just keep letting you do it. And that's, don't allow yourself to be a sucker, bottom line. And no, I don't think they've paid their fair share. I don't think they're pulling their weight, but I am glad that Trump is pushing on that, because I think we need to pull back and force them to step up and actually start carrying their weight. All right. So, wow. Yeah. So ICE facilities in New Jersey, they're still having riots. I guess they've had riots now for about 3 weeks up in Newark, New Jersey. And you have all these groups protesting ICE and throwing stuff at the police and, trying to start fires, setting up blockades, just causing all the same kind of garbage that was going on in Minnesota. That's a lot of what you have. And they see a lot of communist and socialist organizations. Guys, the communists in this country, they are organized. They're in every state. They have probably a stronger hold and are more active in some of the northeastern states and, states out west like California. But hey, we've got communists in this state. Tennessee has got, outside of Knoxville, there's a place called the Highland Center. Been there for years, trained a lot of communists, to include MLK. All right. I don't know if you've seen the Chad O. Parker documentary. Chad O. Parker is a black gentleman from Texas who's done a documentary on MLK and exposed all of his communist links. But anyway, the Highlander Center has been there training communists for decades. And as I've said before, the communists and Islamists are working together. They have a common enemy, which is us. And the sooner we realize that, the better. And so they're protesting. They're just protesting ICE in general. They want all those people released, and they want to make it hard to enforce the laws. And some of this crackdown is recent because a lot of the officials were allowing it. They were allowing ICE to be harassed. And then things got out of hand. And so now, after encouraging or tolerating it, some of the city officials are finally cracking down. But they'll keep doing it. They'll keep doing it until, something happens, something forces their hand. But, it's a dangerous time. We have a lot of people in this country that want to overthrow it. They hate our founding. They hate our Constitution. And they want to take over. They want a communist/socialist revolution in this country, and they are everywhere. And you know what? We paid for that with our money, because most of them, the vast majority of them, learn this stuff in the universities and colleges. And I think we have a video, so we'll go ahead and show that video real quick.
We're having to find ourselves in a situation of knowing that maybe that next time that you visit a family member might be the last time that you see that person that you love. That is what this system is producing. We're workers' revolution. We're communist revolution.
Wow. Communist stuff everywhere. No, you see it, no borders. They were calling for a communist revolution. That's what they're calling for. and they want to do what they can to make it happen. And we better take them serious, and we better take them on. Protesters are demonstrating that they can do what they want with impunity. Compared to the J6 folks, they always get a slap on the wrist. And this is coming from the Bryant Report official. I'm not familiar with him. He lives in a pretty red area in Texas, and they are there too. In parts of Texas, of course, I guess if you're in the Austin area, that's pretty lefty, from everything I understand from people I know from Texas. It's a pretty left-wing area. But guys, we got them in Nashville, we got them in Memphis, we got them in Knoxville, Chattanooga. Anywhere there's a school, a college, or a university, you're going to have communists. Bottom line, because we've allowed it for all of these years. We used to actually treat them as a threat back in the 50s and early 60s, but not anymore. Now we allow them to run for Congress. We allow them to teach our kids. We don't treat them like the enemies that they are. And, it's a problem. It's a problem. And of course, immigration enforcement, some people don't think that there should be any limitations, that immigrants should just be able to show up and we don't have any borders and that everybody's welcome. Yeah, that's not what you don't have a country. You don't have a country if that's the way it is. Somebody at some level has to have the ability. If it's not the federal government, it's the states. And of course, now we've got all these communist states that we've allowed to be created over the years. Where half of the state or more of the state is left wing. And bottom line, if the Democrats, we don't have any, there's no old style Democrats left in elected office. All your Democrats are communist. Every elected Democrat is communist or at least socialist. And that's really only a difference of degree. Once you start down that socialist road, it's just a road to communism. It's sad, but it's true. And I don't see it getting better. We're going to have, especially depending on how the midterms turn out, depending on how the next, 2028, we've only got 2 more years or so of President Trump. Who knows what we're going to get after that? Who knows what we're going to get this, this upcoming midterm? We may lose House and Senate, or might lose both of them. Even if we lose one of them, Trump's not going to be able to get much done. And our Republican majority hasn't, and it's been a slim majority, but they haven't really codified any of the good things he's done. Now, if you've watched the show, I'm not all about everything Trump does. The things he does that I don't like, don't agree with, and no doubt about that. But even the good things he's done, they've undermined. They haven't codified. So the next president that comes in, stuff will be gone. And if we lose control of the House and or Senate, he'll be a lame duck for 2 years. There'll be nothing but investigation after investigation, and he won't get anything accomplished. Okay. We talked about immigrants, and in the past we've had issues with refugees, and we talk about being able to vet them. And a lot of the countries they come from, you can't really vet them because there's no real records. So unless they showed up, if they're coming from Afghanistan, if they're coming from some of these other countries, unless our troops have had some sort of interaction with them and know anything about them, there's no real way of knowing anything about a lot of the people from those types of countries, those third world hellholes. And so it's dangerous to let them in. But, you would think we would be able to vet in this country with all the information and all the capabilities they have of tracking people and knowing about your history. And, like if you go for a security clearance, you got to put a lot of information on there. And they used to actually go check up on that information. And a lot of it they could probably do from their desk. They could probably verify if you have this degree or that degree from this university or that university, if you attended this training, so a lot of it doesn't have to be on foot. You're going to have to do some interviews. You're going to have to, drive somewhere and talk to somebody. But you would think we should be able to do some pretty good vetting in this country for in-country people applying for security clearances or for particular jobs, especially jobs like, the CIA, you would think somebody that worked for the CIA, they're going to have I'm assuming, I've never worked for the CIA, I'm assuming that at minimum, they're going to have a secret clearance, at a minimum, probably higher than that. And that details a pretty good amount of information. I don't know if you heard about this or not, but a CIA officer fairly high up, he was found, and the FBI found this, I think it was 303 stolen golden bars worth about 40 million. And they got to digging, and this guy had falsified his records. He'd falsified about his college degrees, his experience, all these things. And he was high up. He was in the SES, Select Executive Services, Special Executive Services. So like within the GS, within the government, you have like wage grade, you have GS, which is general service. I think there's another one beyond. And then like the top level guys, your executive like positions, that's SES. And I don't remember what level this guy was, but he was up there pretty high and he had several years in. This guy had falsified all kinds of stuff. His degrees, he committed other types of fraud from his time in the military. And I'm like, somebody's working for the CIA, and the people that do the background checks for somebody to be in the CIA or any organization like that, they didn't know that. They couldn't find that out, and nothing turned up. I mean, that just blows my mind. It just blows my mind that somebody could work for the CIA and have lied about basic things, basic levels of education and experience, and back. Just, that's scary. That is scary. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised that we brought all these people under. We can't vet people from other countries. We don't even vet the ones from here applying for sensitive positions in our government. That's just, it's insane. Now, I did hear that, and I think they're somewhat related, that, and this was brought up early in the second Trump administration. They were going to audit Fort Knox to see what gold was actually in there. And then that just kind of went away. And I heard that, and I think it has something to do with this, Trump is now wanting an audit of the gold in Fort Knox. So I think that'd be a good idea. And we had a little video on the gold story. So let's go ahead and watch that.
To the former CIA officer accused of fraud, prosecutors say he had hundreds of gold bars worth more than $40 million stashed in his home. David Rush is also accused of lying about his military and academic credentials for nearly 2 decades. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, tough questions for the CIA after a former officer with top secret security clearance was accused of stashing $40 million in gold bars in his house and lying about his credentials for nearly 2 decades. The FBI seizing 300 gold bars along with $2 million in cash and 35 luxury watches from the Virginia home of David Rush. Prosecutors say he had requested the gold for work-related expenses, but they did not identify the work project he allegedly claimed would require so much currency.
The agency has always used what we call alternative funding sources. Finding out that someone was using gold bars to actually make payments, which obfuscates the CIA's role in it, is not the disturbing part. The disturbing part is that he was able to get away with it.
An affidavit alleges Rush lied about his background since joining the CIA around 2009, claiming he had a degree from Clemson University, a master's from Rensselaer Polytechnic, and had been a Navy pilot. But an investigation found no record he attended either school or had been a pilot.
The whole idea that somebody could make up where they went to college, pretend to have a pilot's license, but they don't have a pilot's license. I mean, those are just such obvious glaring holes.
Prosecutors say Rush served in the Navy until 2015, but then falsely claimed he was in the Navy Reserve and stole $77,000 in military pay he was not entitled to.
Rush was arrested after the CIA referred the case to the FBI for investigation. He's been charged with the theft of public money, and he has not yet entered a plea.
Stephanie Ramos, our thanks.
20 years. He got away with this for 20 years. I'm still trying to figure out how he stole that money from the reserve. I mean, I would think if he was able to make those kind of claims for pay from the reserves, somebody was helping him. Somebody was helping him. So this just blows my mind. That is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Okay. Now here's one we're going to probably spend a little more time on, and it's a lot more disturbing than anything we've covered so far. Now, before I read this, now this comes from Zero Hedge, and Zero Hedge actually got a lot of this information from, let's see, Center for Responsible Statecraft, which is an organization. I'm not familiar with them, but I've seen this story several places. The story is legit from what I can tell. It has to do with the National Defense Authorization Act. It has to do with Section 224 of the current pending National Defense Authorization Act. Now, these are what funds the Defense Department and intelligence and whatnot. And they're usually, 1,000 pages or at least several hundred pages. And before I say this, before I read what I tell you this is about, it's not, to me, this issue with the country involved, it's not that country's involvement that pisses me off or that makes me say that this is wrong. It's that we would do this with any country. This is just insanity. Now, I understand we've always had close relationship with certain countries, during NATO, back during the Cold War. I understand that. I'm not saying I agree that we did everything right then. And I'm not saying that we can't work with other countries, but this is crazy. All right. And I'm just going to read a lot of this and we'll comment as I read. I don't think we have a video on this one. I don't believe. Okay, if we do, he'll put it up here in a second. Anyway, and this is once again from Zero Hedge, and this is the articles from yesterday. There are some stealth moves afoot by the Trump administration and Congress, which are poised to formalize the long-standing close U.S.-Israel relationship on the level of a formal defense pact. I think normally a formal defense pact would require a treaty. That's just me. A sweeping new legislative proposal in Congress is moving to more deeply intertwine and combine the two countries' military arsenals. The House of Representatives version of the 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, released this past week, contains Section 224, devoted to military integration with the name United States-Israel Technology Cooperation Initiative. United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative. The section lays out that the United States has historically contributed an inflation-adjusted $200 billion in military assistance to Israel since 1948 and seeks to more permanently solidify this relationship on a legal basis. We shouldn't be giving anybody $200 billion a year. Now, I know in recent times, the story is, and a lot of people are, so we give money to Israel, then they have to spend it. Our government gives money to Israel, then they have to spend it on U.S. defense contractors. Well, that's just corporate welfare. I mean, that's all that is. Okay, so I don't agree with that either. All right. Responsible statecraft, and that's who Zero Hedge got this report from. And like I say, I can't speak for them. I've never heard of them until recently. Okay. Reported that Section 224 lays out the groundwork for bilateral research and development, co-production of weapons and joint ventures, licensing agreements, and seemingly every manner of U.S.-Israeli military industrial complex cooperation. Trouble separating these. All right, okay. All right. The report said the new congressional provision would greatly expand coordination to seemingly every area of defense tech, including AI, quantum, autonomous systems, directed energy systems, cyber, biotech, while further proposing network integration and data fusion. Wow. Crucially, this would in effect combine both countries' military data and further formalize intelligence sharing. While all of these things are already happened to a large degree, it is at the moment still subject to the policies and direction of whatever U.S. administration happens to be in office. Always true, yeah. If passed, the new legislation would make this automatic and basically irreversible. I'd say nothing's irreversible, but it would take, getting Congress to do something. And once a relationship is established, it is hard to undo them. That's true. The government hardly ever undoes a government program or ends a government program, especially when somebody starts making money on it. Okay. Again, this is akin to a formal defense pact or treaty, but I don't hear a treaty being discussed. It sounds like just the NDAA. What follows is some fuller reporting from the responsible statecraft, which warns that the result could well be a U.S. political system even more susceptible to the whims of an Israeli government seemingly has no qualms about drawing the U.S. military into conflicts in the Middle East. Okay, now, bottom line is this, as far as that last statement goes. Washington told us to watch out for entangling alliances. That's still good advice. It's still excellent advice. We should have done it more in our past, and we should do it more in our future. I don't want to be tied to any other country. I don't want to be tied to England. I don't want to be tied to Canada. I don't want to be tied to Mexico. And, Canada and Mexico are a whole lot closer to us than Israel. This is just wrong. I totally disagree with this integration. I mean, yeah, you can work with allies, and I know some people say they're not an ally. Sometimes I think that I've got my issues. Let's just say that. I've got my issues with the way we've operated. And I'm going to say this too, and I know I'm going to piss off everybody here, and that's okay. I don't buy that we owe Israel, that blessing Israel means that we have to be linked at the hip militarily, or that we have to send tax dollars, even if those tax dollars are going to go back to defense contractors that, for jobs here in America. I don't necessarily buy that. I also don't buy that everything in the world is traced back to Israel or the Jews. Okay. I don't believe that there's been a genocide in Gaza. I disagree with that. If Israel wanted to do a genocide in Gaza, they could have done a whole lot better job than what they did. And everybody seems to be, so upset about Gaza, but they forget how they treat their own people, how the Palestinians treat their own people. They forget that these people raise their kids to be suicide bombers, so that they'll get, because that's their ideology. Plus, oh, by the way, they'll get paid for that. They get paid to do that kind of stuff. So they're a savage society. I'm not saying that everything Israel does is great or right. I just don't buy this whole genocide. So I'm not an anti-Israel guy, but I don't want to be tied to the hip with them or anybody. And I don't think we have to have as close of a relationship. Certainly we don't need this close of a relationship with them. We don't need this kind of relationship with any other country. It's getting dangerous out there. We need to look out for our own. We got enough problems in this country. We don't need to go borrowing trouble, and we don't need to go integrating any more than we already have. And we need to look at undoing some of that, and not just with Israel. Like you say, we need to really reevaluate, what's in our interest. And a lot of stuff we do, in my opinion, is not in our interest. Okay, Section 224 lays out the groundwork for bilateral research and development, co-production of weapons, joint ventures, licensing agreements, and every manner of U.S.-Israeli industrial complex cooperation. They already work together heavily on missile defense, but this provision would greatly expand coordination to seemingly every area of defense tech. So I got a serious problem with that. And I think we should encourage our elected officials to strip that provision out of the NDAA. Bottom line, call your House rep, call your senator, tell them to strip that garbage out of the NDAA. We don't need it. We don't have to have it. And we don't need to have it. We don't need to do that. Our government's supposed to work for us. Doing a lousy job of it in a lot of ways. But melding our military with the military of another country, I don't care what that country is, it's wrong. It's wrong and it's stupid. It shouldn't happen. And we should raise hell about it until they draw it. Because you know what? Once they get it in there, good luck trying to get it undone. Number 6. This has to do with our gubernatorial election. Tennessee's governor race, the top 3, and obviously there's a bunch of others in the race. Okay, I mean every time Tennessee has a governor's race, we have umpteen people in it. I'm only talking about the top 3 Republicans. Okay, and the top 3, you know, we've got Marcia the entitled, who avoids debates. We have Monty Fritz, and we have Representative John Rose. And, you know, I don't know if we have a video to go with this one. I don't think we do. Anyway, I think we do have some photos, some memes. If you got the memes, put them up. If you didn't get them, that's fine. But I want to, there we go. Silly peasants. Debates are for elections, not coronations. Sponsored by Weak Men for Marcia Incorporated. Okay, now that's obviously just a meme, but you know, there's a lot of truth to it. She thinks this is a coronation. We took a poll. Tennesseans don't matter. There will be no debates. Once again, sponsored by Weak Men for Marcia Incorporated. And I think these are funny. I think these are great. January 15th, 2021, Marcia said, I would not certify the election of Joe Biden. January 6th, 2021. I eagerly certified the election of Joe Biden, but who cares? You know, the woman has no shame. Has no shame. She told the people of Tennessee she was not going to certify the election. There were legitimate challenges, and she was not going to certify it. Then the whole January 6th thing happens, and she caves. She just flat out caves. She caught a lot of flack for that in the state of Tennessee. She caught a lot of flack, and she got the message. And so ever since then, all she ever does is talk up Trump. That's all she does on the campaign trail is Trump, 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 Trump. Her campaign speeches are Trump, 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 how great Trump is and how she's going to support him. Well, she could have supported him better as a senator than as a governor. And so she ran for Senate in 24 because she said she wanted to help support Trump. So that was 2024. 2025 comes around, and all year, you know, John Rose got in the race pretty early, March timeframe, I believe, March of 25. And there was talk even then. Rumors were Marcia's going to get in the race. And then August, September timeframe, Monty Fritz gets in the race. And so there's been these polls done. I don't think they're very reliable. I mean, I think all polls are, you know, subject to manipulation. And there's a lot of different variables as far as getting an accurate poll. So she's gotten these polls, and they show her, the polls she's done are, let's say, the establishment is done to include organizations that tend to support well-known candidates. They all show her winning by 50 or 60 points. Now, there's been other polls, maybe less scientific, maybe not less scientific or less reliable, that show different results. In fact, show her losing, show her coming in second. In some cases, showing up third. You know, these are different polls. With you now, here's what I will say. The the polls, and I understand Facebook polls, I got it, but they were a higher number of people. And, you know, I'm not a scientist when it comes to understanding polling. I just know they can be manipulated. And my bottom line is this. She lied about, you know, she's going to run for Senate, and then she drops out the next year, or doesn't drop out of the Senate. She's still in the Senate right now, but she makes it clear she's going to run for governor in the state of in Tennessee in, you know, it's now 2026. But she started her campaign in 25. Roughly a year, actually less than a year after she was reelected, saying that she wanted to run for Senate so she could help President Trump. So that's two lies right there. She lied when she said she wasn't going to verify the vote for, or certify the vote for Biden, and she did. And she lied about, hey, she's going to run for Senate. Now, if you're going to run for Senate in 2024, why are people hearing that you're going to run for governor in 2025? And why do you come out in 2025? Did it just like pop in your head all of a sudden? Hey, I think I'll run for governor. So, I mean, you're already unreliable. You're already a liar. It's a lie when you run for an office, especially knowing you don't intend to finish that time. That's a lie. It's being dishonest. And she's dishonest. Cut and dry. She is dishonest. So not only is she run for Senate, drop out, run for governor, or like I say, she's still in the Senate, but say, hey, I'm not going to finish my term. I'm going to run for governor. Oh, by the way, if she gets elected, then she gets to appoint her replacement, which is probably why Tim Burchett's just all on board with her run for Senate or running for governor. But this idea that she's going to run for governor, she's going to take some polls, and she's going to say, hey, the polls indicate I don't need to debate. I don't need to debate because the polls show X. Well, see, number one, that tells you how selfish she is, because the debates are not for her. The debates are for the people that she claims she wants to serve, but she doesn't want to debate. Now, I wish the SEC, the State Executive Committee for the GOP in the state of Tennessee, and hopefully they'll do this in the future, probably not going to happen now, but I wish they would require debates, at least one debate, if not two, preferably three, but at least one in the primary, especially for governor. It's just the arrogance. The arrogance should make you mad. The flat out arrogance. And it also, like I say, it exposes her selfishness, because she's asking you to vote for her, but she's not willing to get with the other two top candidates, Representative Monty Fritz and Representative John Rose, and have a debate, a side by side, so that people can see and people can make an opinion. Now, yes, she has huge name recognition. And in some cases, that's kind of like tracer rounds. It's going to work both ways. And some people are going, yeah, I'm voting. And I've heard this a lot. I don't know who I'm voting for, but I ain't voting for Marcia. I've heard that a lot. Okay. And if you've been out to any of these events, you've heard it as well. The problem is she still, if she actually gave a damn about the people, she would be willing to debate. But this just goes to show you she's selfish. Now, is it a good political tactic? Yeah. Okay. You're ahead in the polls, but that's assuming that the polls are accurate. I don't believe they're accurate. I don't think she has anywhere near that much of a lead. But either, let's just say for the sake of argument, they are. Let's just say for the sake of argument, they are accurate. Why would she still not debate? Why would she still not allow them? Why does she not want people, everybody, to hear what her plan is and be willing to take questions and be willing to be challenged by other candidates? You know, she's got 24 years in D.C. Ever how many is in the House, and ever how long she's been in the Senate. I don't remember how long exactly. She's got all that time. And then she had several years in the Tennessee legislature. Got a comment here. She's trying to pull what the Arizona governor did. She refused to debate anyone and still won. Well, and you know, that could very well happen. That just means we have more stupid people in our state than I thought. If they're willing to just go on name recognition, which a lot of them are, it's name recognition. That's no way to choose a governor. You should want to hear. That's another thing too. She's been up there 24 years. Can somebody point out to me all of her great accomplishments? And I don't consider naming post offices a great accomplishment. That's primarily what she's done. Now, has she voted the right way on certain things? Yeah, on certain things. But what has she sponsored? You know, the governor's office is an executive position. Just being a senator and co-sponsoring legislation and doing as you're told by McConnell and then now Thune, that doesn't show leadership. About the only way you can show leadership as a rep or a senator, really show leadership, other than, okay, if you happen to be the speaker or majority leader or floor leader or whatever, and then of course you're elected by your peers for that. The only other way for somebody to show leadership is to sponsor legislation. Sponsor it, fight for it, and get it through. That's how you show leadership. What has she done? What stands out in anybody's mind of something great she's done? I can tell you this. She's been up there 24 years, has never, and this is an important issue in the state of Tennessee, never sponsored Second Amendment legislation. Never has. Now, I did see where she co-sponsored some legislation 2019 timeframe with mostly, though not exclusively, Democrat senators on a bill, supposedly anti-terrorism bill, but the bill actually kind of undermined what Trump was trying to do at the time with refugees and would pretty much allow an unlimited number of Iraqis and Syrians into our country. She's clueless. Marcia is clueless. People should demand a debate. They shouldn't have to. She should want to do it. If she's such a potentially great governor, she should want a debate. But she doesn't. So, okay, you can say it's politically smart, but it's an insult to the people. It shows her arrogance and shows it's all about her. Remember, she wants to be the first female governor. She said that. So is this kind of like DEI? I don't know. So anyway, call her campaign up, encourage her to debate. Thank you for being with us. I appreciate you taking the time, and I would encourage you to check us out on Facebook and X, GeneInformer.com. Also, we have some other great shows on this channel. You can go to WestTennesseeTV.com or ParisTV.com, and we have the Mike Weatherford Show, which will be on tomorrow night. And this is Still Divided. This is Walking Tall. Okay, this is a controversy, and it's a special guest, Bo Swenson. Oh, wow. And Steve Sweat. That'll be on the Mike Weatherford Show tomorrow night, 7 p.m. That ought to be interesting. You know, we've had several shows recently over the last year or so, or maybe less. I had Mike Elam on a while back, and then we were supposed to have, there was a lot of people that were not happy with Mike, and we were supposed to have another guy on that. Actually, we did have another guy that kind of attempted to refute, and in some cases, I think maybe did some of what Mike said, maybe. And then we were going to have another guy on. We ended up not having him, but Mike had him on last week, a guy who wrote a book, basically challenging Elam's book. So it's interesting. People still care about that, even though it's been a good while. Walking Tall, I guess you could say Walking Tall still cast a big shadow in Tennessee. So that ought to be an interesting show. And then Sunday, I think we still have the sports show on Sunday with, maybe we don't. Yes, we do. Sports Photography, returning Sunday, June 7th. Sports Cast with Jeremy Buckaloo, 3 great guest photographers. And that's June 7th, 4 p.m. And that's on My Paris TV and WestTennesseeTV.com. Now, next Monday, we are going to have And we're going to have the Patriot Punk, also known as Chase Matheson, on our show next Monday, 7 p.m., June 8th. And, you know, the investigation expands what really happened. This has to do with, you know, Eddie Ferris is the sheriff of Putnam County. He's involved with the Rose campaign. Allegedly, he used a helicopter to go to a campaign event in another county. I guess the investigation is maybe whether or not that was official business. So we will talk about that, and we might possibly have a second guest on. We'll see, but tune in next week. It'll be interesting. You know, find out what's going on with that. So join us again next week, and we will get Jeffrey Cobble rescheduled to come on and talk about jury nullification when we get a chance. All right, so we do have some announcements. Monty Fritz will be at Run for Liberty tomorrow night, June 2nd, 6:30 p.m. at the Kingston Community Center. And I know people in Roane County are familiar with him because that's where he's from. But hey, if you're in one of the neighboring counties, or hey, if you just haven't been paying attention, come on out and hear Monty. If you haven't heard him, you're going to want to. He's the real deal. He is definitely the real deal. So come out and hear Monty. Anyway, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and you know, share us with your friends. We appreciate you tuning in. And that is all for tonight. Good night from Paris, Tennessee, that is.